any other books that were recommended to me. I paid to have an interview with psychoanalysts that I found out about, because I felt, well, they must, as a practicing psychology counsellor, in other words, psychoanalysis, which was the Freudian branch of counselling, that they would know about God. So I paid to have an interview with them, and discovered to my dismay that they had absolutely no interest and no knowledge whatsoever of God. They just looked at me sort of like this, that there was something wrong with me. What the heck did that matter? The important thing was the analysis in terms, as Freud had detailed, of the human mind. But that restlessness continued, and then I happened to meet one of these contacts that my sister and my brother-in-law had made amongst painters and writers and whatnot. A certain man, Oswald Hall, who subsequently became a Barber lover. He was also had become interested in the Sufi society. He knew of the Baron. And in talking with him, I expressed my interest of what it was all about, and he lent me a book. First of all, he lent me a book. This was in 1947 in Melbourne. Prophets of New India, which is the story of Ramakrishna, the perfect master, and his right hand Vivekananda. And I was quite taken, not that in the sense that all of it, that here was somebody that was writing about God in such an open and natural way, almost in my lifetime. It wasn't, of course. They both had gone, but it was so much more my lifetime than Jesus, who was too remote for me. I never felt a really close connection with Jesus until I became aware more and more of Meher Baba, and that awakened a feeling that I do have for Jesus. But it wasn't at that time. Anyway, it was a result of that I became even more restless and thought, okay, well, what do I do now? And it was in the middle of 1947 when you could say I was most restless with regard to the psychology course that I was taking. What to do, whether to continue or whether to pull out. And Oswald then introduced me, took me to meet some people who were, as I subsequently found out, were members of the Sufi society, following Inayat Khan through the Baron von Frankenberg. And they were a doctor and his wife. Nice, very nice couple that I subsequently came to like very much and got to know. But at the time I thought, yeah, well, they're nice people, but so what? Nothing hit me. But they said, would I like to meet their leader, or whatever they called the Baron at that time, I've forgotten. But I said, yeah, sure, I would meet anyone, in the hope of finding what I would now call the truth. And I met him at the hotel. I can even remember the room and sitting there with him in a posh hotel, a what would you say, a 5-star hotel in Melbourne, and for the first time in my life, I could say yes, I had met somebody that impressed me, intrigued me. I'm not referring to the affection that I had for my parents or my uncles and whatnot, especially that elder one who was a lay preacher. But it was obvious that here was somebody that had something which intrigued me, and I was drawn to him. And to give you an indication that how I was, he at one stage in the interview said, would I obey him? And I said yes. He said, give up smoking for 3 months. I had acquired the smoking habit from the Army and Air Force, as I had drink. Not that I was a alcoholic in any shape or form, but all I know is that whenever I did have alcohol, any quantity, I was ill. And eventually I very happily gave it up and said, that's it, I'm not having anything more. Although I still enjoy now, because Barbara said on Avatar's Abode, this place of his, it was all right to have a small glass of wine on special occasions. And when I'm with friends or with fellow lovers of Mayababa, and we have the opportunity to have a glass, I have it with them. I happily enjoy a small glass of wine. But anyway, I said yes, I'll give up smoking for 3 months. And then he said invited me to attend what were called in the Sufi society introductory talks given by Inayat Khan, which led then eventually, if we wish to, into a serious study, advanced studies of papers on spirituality. So I said, yes, I'll do that. So I attended the first meeting in the home of that doctor and his wife that I mentioned earlier, Dennis and Joan O'Brien. And I attended that meeting, and I can remember now the paper. I found it very interesting because it was a statement of Inayat Khan's called The Intoxication of Life. And that is precisely what happens. We get intoxicated with the activity of life, and we forget the reality. We don't sort of stop and think, but what is behind this activity? How did it all come about? What reality has it? But anyway, the intoxication of life. And at the end of the meeting, and I don't know who it was, but somebody thrust a little book into my hand and said, you might like to read this. very casual. Nothing else was said. But because I accepted everything in the hope that it would lead me to greater understanding of life, I said, yes, sure. And I took it. Now, it turned out to be volume 2 of the 5-volume set of discourses which Mayababa had dictated and which had been written down by a very close disciple of his, Dr. Deshmukh. And I took it home and opened it, and as it happened, I don't remember even looking at the name at that stage of what the author, as it were, of this booklet. All I remember opening up and finding to my amazement that there were discourses on the formation of the mind, the basis of the mind, the constitution of the mind in terms of mind impressions called sanskaras, but what intrigued me was here was, as it were, psychology taken to a God level, because the book was very much the relationship of mind to God, and that intrigued me.
Hi Bill, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
How are you feeling today?
Fine.
Are you 86 not out?
No, 87.
87 not out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.